Good morning, students. I'm Kelly Wood, and I'll be your instructor this year for Human Anatomy and Physiology. I'm so glad to have you in class. Even though this is going to be a little bit different than having a regular teacher in front of a regular classroom, there are some advantages to taking online Human Anatomy and Physiology. One advantage is that you can work somewhat at your own pace. You can go over materials again if you need further follow-up. I am accessible by computer, and I will also be meeting with you in a virtual classroom 2 days a week so that you and I can talk about any problems that you're having. So Human Anatomy and Physiology is an elective. This is not for a science credit, so if you're needing a science credit, you need to go talk to your counselor about getting out and getting into something that counts as a science credit. This is an elective through the career and technical courses. This is to help prepare people who have an interest in medical fields for the human anatomy and physiology that you'll be taking in college. So basically, we're going to look at things in depth. We're going to give you a basic understanding of human anatomy and physiology. We'll be looking at body parts. We'll be looking at how they function. And hopefully this will give you what you need to be able to help you be successful when you get to college courses in human anatomy and physiology, which move very, very quickly. That all being said, if you're still wanting to stay with me, let me tell you a little bit about human anatomy and physiology. And the first thing is we're going to look at the words for anatomy and physiology. You'll see my black screen right here, and I'll write on that from time to time. And this is one way that you will receive content. You'll be watching video clips of me writing on this screen and talking to you so that you can replay it if you need to. And I can put drawings and things up here for you. So this is one way that you'll receive content. So we'll just look at it a little bit today. So the first thing I'm going to show you is we're going to look at the word anatomy. So I might make this work here. Anatomy. Anatomy, translated, means in Latin, means to cut. And a lot of our words in science, and particularly in the biologies, come from Latin bases. A lot of words are Latin based. So if you happen to speak Spanish or another Latin language, you may have a little advantage in here. But anatomy, tomy, T-O-M-Y, actually means to cut. But anatomy refers to the structure of body parts. The structure of body parts. How are we put together? So when we look at the heart, and we will look in depth at the heart. When we look at the heart, if we're looking at the anatomy of the heart, we're looking at the 4 chambers. We're looking at the right atrium and the right ventricle and the left atrium and the left ventricle. And we're going to look at the different blood vessels that are coming out of these things and how all this works together. We're going to look at the actual structure of the heart. How it's put together. We'll look at the septum, and we'll look at the thickness of the walls, and we'll look at the valves in the heart, and all of that goes into the anatomy or structure of the heart. So that's one thing that we'll look at is anatomy. Anatomy refers to structure. Now the difference between that and physiology is function. And these two are very closely related. In fact, form and function go together. The way something is formed determines its function. Its function depends upon its form. If that heart that we talked about earlier has a defect in the way it is formed, then its function will not function correctly. So anatomy and physiology are tied very closely together. And some people falsely believe that we're going to spend 1 semester on anatomy and 1 on physiology. Not so. The whole thing is anatomy and physiology. In most of the chapters that we go over, we'll start with the anatomy, and then we'll integrate the physiology. And how does it work? What does it look like? How is it made? This is not only at the macroscopic level, which means I can see it with my eyes, but also at the microscopic level, which means I need a microscope to see it. Okay, we'll look at both of those. We'll look at the anatomy, and then we will look at how does it function. And we'll also look at how all the body systems function together, because they are all very closely tied together. So that gives you a brief overview of what is anatomy, what is physiology. And if you have any questions, my email address is here. In fact, let me start over again and clear that off for you so that you can see it in a nice big version. Kelly W. at DawsonESC.com. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. And I will be seeing you soon. Bye-bye.